In our next field segment, we'll meet some seniors who have some time to spare in their golden years, but they're not spending it playing shuffleboard. They're volunteering to help people recover from the terrible damage done in the Gulf Coast region by Hurricane Katrina in the late summer of 2005. And they don't need a paycheck to feel that the effort is worthwhile. Let's watch.
It has been over a year since Hurricane Katrina devastated the Gulf Coast region, causing more widespread damage there than any previous hurricane. Even now, the cleanup is far from finished.
The storm hit and damaged an area twice the size of the state of Pennsylvania. And you don't hear a whole lot about all these other places, just some of the major places like Biloxi and New Orleans.
The debris is gone, so sometimes people can go down and look around and say, well, I don't see where there was any damage. It looks fine to me. But what they don't see are the thousands of houses that are gone, the multitude of trees and scenery and landscaping that are gone.
Sadly, some organizations are scaling back their aid efforts, even though many people are still in distress and anxious about what lies ahead.
I think they're seeing fewer and fewer people coming down to work, and they've been given a lot of offers of help, and yet a lot of things haven't materialized, and so they're kind of frustrated by that.
The severity of this disaster, coupled with the national media's focus on it, have compelled many seniors to volunteer. Some, like the Senates, are doing relief work for the first time.
We had talked about volunteering for disaster response for a couple years, but of course you have one event or another and it just didn't rise to the top. So when Katrina hit, that made it very important.
Elder volunteers are providing valuable assistance to those who are still in need. Many return again and again. John Little volunteered with a group from Christ's American Baptist Church in Spring Grove, Pennsylvania.
Well, last time we were down, we put kitchen cabinets in, countertops on, vanities in. 2 days we spent doing electrical work.
It's painting, it's cleanup, it's listening, it's talking, it's supporting the people that's there.
Despite those who continue to help, more volunteers are needed, and seniors are welcome and in demand.
So many of us seniors walk around and say we don't have any skills because we may have worked in an office all our lives or anything like that. But there is such a uniqueness down there that with God's presence that even those without skills can do things.
There are many ways that older Americans can contribute to the work being done to aid the Katrina victims.
For example, you can learn to drive nails or paint or clean up or tear out wallboard that's got mold on it, and sit and visit with people.
They're desperate in need of plumbers and electricians. So if a senior has that kind of ability, they could work anywhere. But there's a lot of things that can be done by anyone who just has an interest.
There's a lot of work to be done, such as clean up outside, clean up inside, just general painting. They can work in kitchens that serve the people that still don't have kitchens. Clothing banks are still open. There's a lot of volunteers that are needed down there just to do basic stuff.
Hospitals aren't reopened yet, so there are free medical clinics, so medical people are needed. So if you want to stay home, if you feel like you can't go down, there's the local administrative planning to take care of.
Psychological support is another area where volunteers are critically needed.
In addition to the physical work of rebuilding the houses, there's also the emotional support that's needed for the people. They are truly emotionally devastated. Divorce rates have skyrocketed, suicide rates have skyrocketed. Caseworkers are desperately needed to help people work through this process.
Being a volunteer in the Katrina zone can be demanding, but John Little isn't letting his age prevent him from making a difference.
People use age as a reason not to go. And I don't understand that. I think that's probably a reason to go. The majority of us are so more experienced in life itself that we need to go. We need to experience that, along with when we talk to people and offer help to people. It's greatly appreciated.
And in the end, it's the gratitude of those who have been helped that makes it all worthwhile.
What I get out of going down to help the people in Biloxi and on the Gulf Coast is just the satisfaction that I have been able to help someone just a little bit, help their lives change for the better.
Most of them can't get over thanking us for coming down, but what they don't realize is that we get blessed in far more than what they do.
If you are interested in helping with the cleanup of Hurricane Katrina, contact a reputable organization such as the American Red Cross, your local religious group, or other volunteer organization. Those who've done it say it's good to be cautious in your planning, but bold in your commitment.
I wouldn't advise just to go down and try to find something to do. Get with an organization, they're going down every day, and be a part of a group that goes down.
Joining me now to tell us more about the aid that's being provided to victims of Hurricane Katrina is Steve Kerr. Mr. Kerr is Executive Director of the Hanover, Pennsylvania office of the Red Cross and the Public Affairs Officer for the National Red Cross's Rapid Response Team. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
How extensive was the damage of Hurricane Katrina?
If you can imagine driving from one end of the state of Texas all the way over to Florida, that's the extent of damage that the Red Cross and other relief organizations had to deal with when it came to dealing with Hurricane Katrina and Rita. It was massive.
And I understand that that equates to about over 700,000 homes? That's
correct, yes. And some estimates have that even higher than that. So it was definitely a storm that will always be remembered by all, from starting back to the 1800s when America started keeping track of hurricanes. This was definitely one of the largest ones.
When we saw the segment, it showed still a lot of water damage and things like that. Today, what is it like there?
There is probably still about 70% of damaged areas. You can go into pockets of certain states and certain Gulf Coast region where there might be some recovery started, but it is still overwhelming to think of the amount of homes and the people that are still displaced, especially in the city of New Orleans, in Mobile, Alabama. All throughout that entire region, it's been a very slow and painful and sometimes difficult road to recovery.
What kind of help have your volunteers been able to provide for the Hurricane Katrina victims?
I'm so proud of the Red Cross and the volunteers that have gone down there and given months away from their families, weeks, time after time, answering the call for help. And they still continue to do that today, whether it's mental health counseling, providing food, helping other organizations that are down there, from especially the church groups, helping with the rebuilding. They're still there and they're still helping, and it's going to be a long road.
I was telling you that my mom is actually on the board for the American Red Cross, and she tells me it's really one of the most amazing things, I guess, or activities that she's ever been a part of being a volunteer for them. And she also says that her age brings a lot of wisdom to the job. We were talking a little bit about that earlier. What are your thoughts on aging and older people volunteering?
My first thought to answer that, when I first joined the Red Cross, I was young. And
what are you now?
I'm still kind of young now, but I was amazed that there was no generation gap. Honestly, and I still, to this day, after 17 years in the Red Cross, still see no generation gap. We have people who I've worked with that are 90 years old, that just have tremendous experience, and that's what seniors bring to our organizations. They've been through wars, they've been through tough times. They can tell victims of disasters such as Hurricane Katrina and Rita that you'll make it through because I've been through this before. And it's something I can't say I have that. And as much as I've seen disaster and been a part of air transportation accidents or hurricanes, these folks have more experience in hardship.
It's a lifetime of experience that they have, that they bring to their job, whether it's volunteering or not. What is the most prominent type of aid that's needed right now?
Patience. It's going to be a long road to recovery. I think the greatest aid that's coming right now is obviously the rebuilding, but also the mental health counseling. When it's a year after the disaster, a lot of people start to forget. They forget that there's still homes from hurricanes in year 2004 that need to be repaired. So it is a long process to the road to recovery, and the mental health aspects start to kick in. People are depressed. They want to continue with their lives, but they can't. They feel helpless, and that media attention has gone away.
Right.
And that's hard.
It's difficult. What role is the Red Cross actually playing down there at this moment?
We continue to help. We still have many volunteers in the areas that have been affected. We continue to provide operations for feeding. We work very closely with our partners, FEMA, other organizations, whether they're church-based or nonprofits. And again, the biggest part I think we're still working with is the counseling and the mental health aspects of recovery from disaster.
Hold that thought. We're going to be right back. We need to take another quick break. Don't go away, because we'll be back shortly to continue our conversation with Steve Kerr about the Red Cross and its work on behalf of Hurricane Katrina victims.
Do you know where the internet search term Hurricane Katrina placed in 2005? Do you know where the internet search term Hurricane Katrina placed in 2005? Answer B. Hurricane Katrina was the second most searched phrase on Google in 2005.
We're back to continue our discussion about the effort to help Hurricane Katrina's victims. With me is Steve Kerr. He's the Executive Director of the Hanover, Pennsylvania office of the Red Cross. So you were talking in the last segment about how the media has really waned, which is a natural evolution. When there's a crisis after crisis, they move on. But I'm a little concerned about that, because without media attention, as many volunteers aren't going down there, there's not as much of an eye on it. Steve, what exactly needs to be done still from your last visit there? What are some concrete things that are still need to be done?
I think the biggest thing that's going to still need for people to continue to remember Katrina and Rita is to get out and to volunteer and remember that rebuilding is going to take time. And with the media that has gone away and the attention, people are forgetting that homes are going to take years to rebuild. I think the greatest thing that people can do at this point is to look for opportunities of volunteer time. Take the skills that you have, whether you can paint or you can put up drywall, hang framing in a house. That's what it's going to take to rebuild that area. So much attention was on the larger cities, for example, New Orleans, and truly with good reason. But it's just amazing throughout Louisiana, throughout Gulfport, Mississippi, and the towns. So you could just keep naming them, and towns that haven't even been touched yet for rebuilding.
What are some of the other organizations that you guys are working in concert with there?
A lot of the faith-based organizations, and those are the folks that are right now that are organizing the rebuilding efforts. We also work very closely with FEMA, who is in charge probably of, if you want to look at it, for the overall recovery of that area. But and there's just countless other smaller groups that are popping up in that local communities throughout that damaged area.
When seniors actually go down to volunteer, what can they expect when they arrive? You know, we saw in the package that couple, that they had thought about doing it for years and years, but this is the first time that they actually did. What would they have expected when they got there?
And we work with people before they go out, especially some of our seniors, because sometimes you may have, I don't want to say false hopes, but recovery takes a long time, and you have to put things in perspective, and various people can deal with that differently. When you go down, though, we try to encourage people to realize it's going to be work, and it's going to be a lot of work, and you have 12 hours, 14-hour days, sometimes longer. You're going to have an awful lot of love, an awful lot of support, and an awful lot of people hanging in there with you, but it is not easy. It is work, and even if you go down during a hurricane or right after a hurricane happens, it's mass confusion. It's organized, but it's mass confusion, and sometimes people are, the pace is very quick, if you will.
If you're a senior and you're going down now, what kind of living conditions can you expect? Are you in a hotel or a tent, or?
You're usually in a housing dorm with other folks. Might be a church community room, might be a YMCA community area, but it's certainly not the Ritz-Carlton. But again, you're with people with a similar passion, similar mission to want to move forward and to help people in need. And that brings a lot of camaraderie and a lot of goodwill, if you will. So it's definitely not going to be private living, but it does give you the opportunity to be with other people that want to do the same help.
If you had to take a guess, what percentage of the people that are down there now are seniors? Excuse me, are seniors?
I would have to say probably 65%.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's
and
phenomenal.
That's an uneducated guess,
No,
but
right.
just by being down there in the area, knowing our own community of folks that are going down, they have the time. They're retired. They have tremendous skills, and by no means are they lighthearted, and they can pound a hammer and rip a wall probably longer and harder than I can.
So they're just as good as younger volunteers. One of the things that I've been thinking about throughout this interview, though, is that there are so many mature adults that maybe are in a situation where they've had a stroke or they have gripping or dexterity problems or things of that nature. And I wondered, are there programs where they can be more of a support system or help them with the mental health? I noticed in the segment that suicide and mental health problems are escalating. Are there support groups that seniors can be a part of where they don't have to do physical labor?
Absolutely. You can go to your local Red Cross chapter. You don't have to be there at the site to feel like that you're helping the people to recover. You can still go to your local Red Cross chapter and be a part of the recovery efforts. You can help in all aspects of volunteerism and being a part of communities that have been damaged. And you can look at it, even your own communities have disasters, from house fires to, to different needs that are there. So there's so many aspects that you can help other communities by just doing something in your own community.
Steve, I know there have been a lot of changes within the organization of Red Cross recently, and a lot of it has been public. Is the money going there to the right places, things of that nature? Has that been a problem at all with your recruiting volunteers, especially mature adults who are always looking for very trustworthy organizations to be a part of?
To be honest, I think it's made more people frustrated. There's always a perception of, when you get into those situations. And I think the people that have been there, that have slept on floors, that have, eaten snacks off the back of a truck, know how hard our volunteers work and how much that workforce was doing good for people in that area. And
it's almost a slap in the face, they feel.
It really is. And it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback how and when money should have been spent. But when you suffer from the largest disaster this country has ever seen in modern times, it's difficult. You make the best educated decision at the time. And having been very closely affiliated with that, were there things that I would have made differently? Yeah. Were there things that you could have done differently, utilize personnel and people? Yeah, it's really easy to do that.
Good point. It's very hard to project that when you don't know that it's coming.
It is.
Talking about money, this is a good segue, because I'm curious, are there any financial costs to a senior volunteer if they want to come down and help with Hurricane Katrina?
Not through the Red Cross. When they are responding to a disaster, immediately after a disaster, those costs are picked up by our organization. And obviously, when you're giving your time for 3 weeks or a month, it's amazing how much our organization can do by having usage of volunteers. Now, through faith-based organizations, I know I've been involved in a little bit of fundraising through our own church with folks that have gone down and to help rebuild. And that there is some costs associated with that. But I know they're minor costs, because once you arrive, the organizations, the churches will take great care of you. So you pile into a truck, you get a bunch of drivers, and you go. But there are some costs to it, but as far as if you're going to go down there to help rebuild. But within our organization, the American Red Cross, I talk specifically of, there are now costs associated to that individual donating their time.
So we saw this couple that had just gone down for the first time. Do you have any war stories for me of any older adults that you've come in contact with when you've been volunteering?
Probably none that I could probably share, but I can tell you there's a lot of fun seniors out there that have incredible stories that I enjoy, and You know, I had one senior, I always tell a story that I was staying with, and I said, well, I'm kind of a boring individual, you know, and it's like, it's okay.
Was that right when you walked in the door, or did you wait a few minutes?
It's a long story, but anyways, one night I was exhausted. I had worked the night, but I mean, I probably was going on 3 hours of sleep or something like that. We're all sharing rooms. You didn't care. There was 4 or 5 of us to a room, and I said, you know, they're getting ready to go out for dinner and all that, and I said, yeah, I'm sorry. I said, I got to hit the bed. I'm going to bed. And they kind of all turned to me and said, my God, you really are boring.
And you're young.
And you're young. And I said, I can't keep up with you guys, you know?
Clearly, we are doing the segment today because we're concerned that not enough people are paying attention to Katrina, that the publicity has waned. But also, I know that there are some things that are closer to home if mature adult doesn't want to or can't go as far as New Orleans, say they live up north. What are some volunteer activities they can do closer to home through the Red Cross?
Just coming into our office. You know, the Red Cross, the reason I love this organization is if you just want to stuff an envelope, you can sit there all day long and stuff envelopes. If you want to respond to disasters in the middle of the night or work at a food pantry to, you know, hand out food or to counsel individuals, we have that. It is absolutely amazing. There's no, you can even travel internationally with the Red Cross because obviously it's a network of global relief. You can be part of a worldwide relief team.
This is such great information, and it's redcross.org, right?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.